These SSD drives are now so skinny, you can actually push them too far deeply into the drive tray. Hello and welcome to My Man the Maker's computer channel. Today we're going to talk about a very interesting little problem I ran up against when working on Crazy, my Dell PRECISION M4700 laptop. Now that machine is an ongoing saga of problems, hardware-wise, but this particular problem had nothing to do with that machine. Nothing was broken. What happened was a technological artifact caused a problem that wouldn't have happened a few years ago, but might be commonly occurring right now. Here's what I mean. If you take a look at this drive tray, this is a typical drive tray for a Dell PRECISION series laptop, the 4700, the 4600. If you look at this drive tray, which is common amongst all of the Dell 4000 series computers, you'll notice that it doesn't have screw mounts. What it has instead are little dimpled pieces of stamped out metal. Now that'll work just great if you're working with or installing a older style magnetic media hard drive. And what I mean by that is this drive has a certain thickness that's dictated by the platters on the inside. They just need enough room to spin. So what happens with this magnetic media drive is it comes with a certain form factor that's kind of fixed. Now the drive tray on the Dell PRECISION series is pretty well designed, if you ask me. You can only fit the drive one way because the eSATA connector only shows up correctly within the tray if you insert it a correct way. And it has a no screwdriver type installation. You just push it in and now it's installed. And as you can see, the drive fits well within the connector and all is good. But what I did notice is, you can see it, maybe even with this drive you can see it. Do you see the mismatch right there? So this drive has actually fallen into the connector a little on the low side. So you can actually push a drive in too far. So what you need to do is float this drive up a little bit. You see that difference there? Right there. It's peeking out a little bit above there, and then it's disappeared here. So this drive, you have to pop it out and seat it correctly within these little retaining clicks. They just pop in, and here's the drive correctly installed. There's a little bit of space there, just between the drive and the carrying case. Now the thing about this drive is it's so thick that if you try to insert this drive, it actually won't fit. It'll hang up on the connector inside the computer. So then of course you'll pull it out and you'll be like, oh okay, silly me, I pushed the drive in too far. I'll just pop it out and put it back in. But I want to show you something about this new generation of drives. Take a look at the thickness difference between the SSD and the magnetic media. The SSD is maybe 1/3 slimmer, in my opinion. I mean, it's almost as slim as just the connector on the eSATA part of the eSATA connector. eSATA? No, just the SATA connector on the old magnetic media. So what happens with this drive, which is an SSD from Dell, but all SSDs are pretty small these days, is you can actually get the drive correctly hooked up, lined up with the aperture on the case, push it in, and it's so low. It's gone down so far within this drive tray, it's almost at the height of the frame. So you can actually put this in too far, insert it into your computer, and then because it doesn't make any connection with the SATA connector on the motherboard, the machine will say there is no drive present, even though you're certain there's a drive present because you just installed one. And that's what I wanted to show you today. I wanted to show you that the slimmer drives, these SSD drives, are now so skinny you can actually push them too far deeply into the drive tray. And what that does is it gives you a false impression that your drive has somehow gone bad. So what I'll do next is I'll probably demonstrate that on an actual M4700 computer, so you can see the drive not being recognized by the machine, even though it's been inserted fully into the case. It's a very interesting problem, and it only occurred to me recently because I was testing out crazy to try to see what was going on with it, only to discover that the machine wasn't recognizing the drive, which was bizarre to me. So what we're going to do next is we're going to actually test this drive in an M4700 computer, fully pushed in, like this, fully pushed in, and then properly seated. You see how it kind of flipped up there? Let me do it again. I did it a bit quick there. It just pushed up a little tiny bit, and listen. That's okay. And for the front, that's okay too now. So now the connector is correctly positioned within the frame, and this drive should insert in a computer no problem. However, if you're using older magnetic media, like this 1 terabyte Toshiba drive, if I push this thing all the way in, I wonder if that connector is going to hang up on the motherboard. We're going to find that out and see if there's a difference between the magnetic media being pushed too far into the frame and whether or not it can actually be inserted into the M4700, or if it too, listen, it doesn't make a popping sound, but it goes there. And now it's okay. Let me do it again. Just, there's a little window here, and just pushing up a little tiny bit. Yeah, it's right now. And same thing here. There's a little tiny window. Just push up a little bit. And this one is now feeling, oh no, on this side it's not right. There, now that's okay, and that's okay. There. So now this is correctly positioned within the frame. And as you can see, there's quite a gap there. Maybe half a centimeter. Anyways, next thing to do is to try this out within an actual living machine and see if what I think is happening is what's happening. Here's a typical Dell Precision laptop. They're a very powerful machine, and I like them a lot. I'll just give you a quick tour of what's going on here. Here's the front. This is the release catch. Here's the drive bay. That's where we're interested in looking at, right there. Now, to get this drive out, you have to pop the bottom off. So the way to do that is you turn the machine onto its back. You have to remove the battery. And that's simple enough. We've got the battery out just by pushing down. Let's leave it here and take the battery out. Now, once you have the battery out, there's another lever you can move right here that releases the hard drive. And out it comes. Now, as you can see, this machine has no drive in the tray because I have a motherboard-based M-SATA hard drive. So now that we've got the drive tray out of the machine, what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 different tests. The first test is we're going to take an empty drive tray and the Toshiba drive, and we're going to push it in too far. So this drive has been pushed too far into the frame, and as you can see, there's a drive mounting screw hole there that's fallen beneath the tab on the drive tray. So let's see if we can even insert this into the machine. It goes this way, and it won't even go in. So this works great if you have magnetic media drive, because hey, it's not going to go in. Okay, so let's try experiment number 2. So the next experiment is to take the exact same drive, the Toshiba drive, mount it correctly in the tray, and see if it will install. So you line up the connector with the frame, and then you gently push the drive in. Now this is a little low, so you just push it up, push it up. Okay, it's all right. And now we're going to insert this drive into the machine, and it should insert no problem. There, no problem. So with magnetic media, you can't install this drive incorrectly. However, with a solid state disk, because they're thinner, you can get into trouble. And here's what happens. Here's the Dell solid state disk, and here's the Dell frame. These are both directly from Dell, so you would think that they would work together. Well, let's give it a try. We line up the connector with the frame, and we push it in all the way. So now the drive is totally grounded out on the frame. Let's see if we can insert the drive. Yes, we can. Now, there's no way that drive is making contact with the motherboard, but it's inserted. Okay. That's no good. So what does this look like when you boot the machine with the drive incorrectly installed? Let's find out. We're going to open the machine up. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to power this machine on and press F12 to choose the boot device. And what we can see on the screen is there is no hard drive recognized. None. So we have mini card SSD, we have CD DVD, and we have onboard network interface card. And those are the three choices. When this drive is inserted correctly, you'll see a drive showing up there. But it's not inserted correctly because it's incorrectly set in the frame. So let's turn this machine off and set that SSD properly in the frame. Pop out the drive. And the only thing we're going to do here with this drive, nothing dramatic. All we're going to do is push it up a little bit with the thumb. Click. Click. Okay, time to reinsert in the machine. Feels exactly the same. There's no difference in the tactile sensation whether the drive is making contact or not. And now let's boot this thing. Can we get the full screen? Let's see. There we go. Okay, we're going to start it now. Press F12. And there we have internal hard disk drive show up on the menu. So what this video was trying to demonstrate was the fact that you can incorrectly install these new generation of drives, the solid state drives. You can incorrectly install them in the M4700 frame to the point where they actually slip under the SATA connector on the motherboard. And it looks all the world like that drive is not functioning correctly, when in fact it just hasn't been fit into the frame correctly. We have solved the mystery of the M4700 disappearing drive. What's going on is the magnetic media is thick enough so that when you misinsert it into the drive tray, you can't insert that drive into the frame of the computer correctly. It just won't go. And that gives you an indication that you have pushed the drive too far into the frame. However, with the thinner solid-state disks, you can actually physically push that drive too far into the frame. And when you insert it into the laptop, the entire disk slips below the internal SATA connector. So the drive will insert all the way, it looks normal, but it will not be recognized by the computer because the computer is actually physically not connected to it. It's just floating inside that cavity within the laptop body. When you properly install the SSD or the magnetic disk, they are recognized by the computer. Now this caused me no end of trouble when I was working on Crazy, because that machine broke down catastrophically, and then when I was trying to work on it, because it was using a solid state disk, the disk wasn't recognized, making me think that the disk had somehow been affected by the crash, when that's not necessarily true. So all I wanted to do with this video is to give people some information about how to maybe troubleshoot their Dell Precision laptops so they wouldn't duplicate this particular phenomena and get confused like I was confused. Well, that's it for today. I just wanted to give you some exposure to something I found out which was quite surprising, and I thought maybe it was causing trouble for other people like it caused trouble for me. So if you like this video, please subscribe. Please like my videos. Please give comments. I like comments quite a lot. And remember, if I can do this, you can do it too. And that's the point of this entire video series, and I hope you enjoyed this one. So that's it for now. Keep making. You'll notice that it has... Here's a typical M1000 series. Oh, no, you don't have to do that. Redo that.